Once the city made the decision to buy the distribution facilities, the major question was, should we do this with contractors or should we hire city staff? And there were a number of issues that had to be taken into consideration. Clearly, cost and the speed of doing it were considerations, but the city didn't have any expertise in the electric utility industry. So, because of cost, speed, and lack of expertise, the decision was to hire a contractor to do that. So we put out an RFP, and we had a number of responses. And in the end, we evaluated the price and the expertise that Inco Utility Services provided as being the best contractor. And so then we began contract negotiations with Inco and ultimately negotiated a contract that was acceptable to the city. When we were negotiating the contract with Inco, obviously the most important thing we had to determine would be which services were we going to include in the contract. Inco provides the engineering and planning associated with the distribution system, the line crew services, all of that is included in the contract. But the one piece that we didn't have here and we included in the contract was the 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week outage call center. So we have an 800 number, and when our customers call to report lights out, they actually reach Inco personnel in California, which is a 24 hours a day, 7-day-a-week service, and they provide it to other utilities, not just the city of Winter Park. So when one of our customers have an outage in the middle of the night or on the weekend, they call that number. They get an Inco employee, and then that Inco employee in the call center actually dispatches the service worker here in Winter Park to go correct the outage, and that has worked very well. One of the things to consider is what are the pros and cons of doing it with your own employees versus doing it with a contractor. I've been working in and around the Florida municipal electric industry for 40 years. And the one thing that I think cities do a very bad job at is terminating an employee when an employee needs to be terminated. And, it could be lack of competence, it could be poor safety, whatever the issue is. Cities go through all these processes and reviews and appeals, and the culture is just a culture that's anti-terminated employee. Sometimes bad employees need to be terminated. The one thing that I have really learned to respect about the contractor is when an employee needs terminating, they are very quick to do it. If there's a safety issue, they'll give one warning. The second time it happens, the employee's gone. And so I think as a result of that culture that the contractor has, generally speaking, we have better employees than we would have if we were responsible for the hiring and firing process. With regard to the cost, that's always the question. Does it cost you more, or do you save money having a contract? I tend to think we spend a little more, but I don't think it's really a lot more. We've evaluated from time to time if we could bring it in-house, would we save money? We spend something in excess of $3 million a year with Inco. We've got 14,000 customers. I think if you were to take that $3 million a year and divide it by 14,000, you would find in dollars per customer that what we spend is not dramatically different than what anybody else spends. And so from that point of view, I don't think it costs us a lot more. I think we do pay a little more, but I think there are benefits that offset that. If there are things that have to be purchased and have to be purchased quickly and efficiently, I think sometimes contractors can do a better job than that, and cities can do that. And so I think there probably are some economic advantages to it. Does it cost us more? Of course it does a little bit. I think on balance, though, our costs are not radically different than anybody else's. With regard to the seamlessness of it, we try to make it seamless. Of course, the operations manager is an Inco employee. All the line crew are Inco employees. We have an engineer, distribution engineer that's an Inco employee. Sometimes we have service planners that are Inco employees. And how does that work with the city is the basic question. And that's been one of the things that I think I've tried to work the hardest at is to create a culture where the INCO employees feel like they're city employees. They feel like they're city employees in that we have the same expectations of them in terms of how they treat our customers as we would require if they were our own employees. And so I work very hard at treating them like they're city employees. I think, uh, I consider the operations manager that is an INCO employee as a part of my senior management team. It's a little weird. On the one hand, my responsibility is to manage that contract, but on the other hand, I view him as a part of our senior management team. So our whole strategy has been to create a culture that makes the INCO city workforce a seamless workforce. And I think we've done a very good job at it. With regard to what advice would I give to a city that was considering outsourcing its operations, I would probably give them advice with regard to the contract itself. It needs to be one that can be terminated reasonably at a low cost. It could be a long-term contract. I think most cities would try to prove that it would save them money, and I probably would advise them to focus on that part less and focus more on the competence and the professionalism of the services that would be provided. My basic experience tells me that most small municipal utilities don't have the skill sets necessary to do the things that they really need to do. And so if they can go out and contract those services and do it at a cost-effective price, then I think it's the preferred approach. With regard to Winter Park's experience, I would say our experience of doing this through a contract mechanism has been very positive. I mean, when you consider the fact that the city of Winter Park really has 3 employees in its electric department, and we have really the access to over 20 employees via the contract, I think we've provided really competent services. We've done it in a very cost-effective fashion. I'm not sure we would have been able to do it with our own workforce as quickly and as competently as we were able to pull it up during the startup mode. We're a brand new utility. We started June 1st, 2005, and here we are coming up on June 1st, 2013. So we're basically an 8-year-old child, but yet I think we have really competent staff and really competent contract services. I don't think we could have done it any other way.